Alright, I want to show you the current situation I'm in because I find it quite amusing. Now this Kia Ceed of mine, the engine of the Thunderace is in the boot, amongst other things like the discs, which, well, I'm not going to be using those again. The radiator, I've got calipers in here, I've got my tools in the boot. Come around to the rear seats and we've got the fairing of the Thunderace. Oh, almost dropped the wheel. Right, so this here is the Yamaha Thunderace in question. It had been sat for 20 years, unloved and forgotten about, was in a poor condition, as well as had this great big dent in the frame. And because of that nasty dent, the whole bike needed to be stripped down, as well as the engine removed, in order to replace the frame. But I'd have to admit, it hasn't exactly been plain sailing, because I couldn't remove this very stubborn and seized up swing arm pivot bolt. Now I should mention, if you're new here, that I am a total beginner, trying to rebuild a bike for my driveway, and so here I was trying my hardest to remove the swing arm with the tools, knowledge and facilities I had, and sadly were failing. And so I threw the towel in and sourced this swing arm off of eBay instead. Which now means we are in the position to start rebuilding this Thunderace from the ground up.
Keep coming. Yep, keep going. Stop.
Alright, ready?
So are we putting it onto... Oh, wait.
We're putting...
It on there now?
Not there, no.
Right.
Let's just get it on the edge of the boot. Lift. Right, so this is the plan. I'm going to be using this Black & Decker workbench to support the engine. Don't worry about it collapsing. Supposedly supports 250 kilograms of weight. What I'm going to do is effectively drop the frame on top of the engine. I think that's going to be a lot easier than trying to lift the engine up into the frame. Then once I fit the forks and the swing arm, I can then at least sort of drop the bike as it is down onto some jacks. However, before we get cracking, I do still need to remove these old exhaust studs. A couple of them came out, however, most of them have stayed in situ. In fact, I even broke one of them, so let's see if we can sort that out. Okay, so I wanted to try this trick, the 2-nut method, that I learned from you guys in the comment section on my previous uploads. The 2-nut method works by locking 2 nuts against each other on the stud thread, so it can be loosened using a spanner or wrench. But it was sadly not budging that exhaust thread, and so I considered moving on to my power drill. Right, so here was one of the exhaust studs that we did manage to free when removing the exhaust system. Maybe if I attempt this broken one first, if I drill it out, starting with a smaller drill bit first, and then slowly work up to a size that is almost a size that fits that hole. Hopefully we can remove enough of this broken stud that will then allow me to force that back in and make sure the threads are still okay. Well, that was a complete fail, but I've been to Screwfix and I think I've got the tool for the job. This is a bolt extraction kit that works by biting into the stud. It's too big. Oh, it's becoming an absolute nightmare.
Hello.
Hello mate, how you doing, you alright? I need your advice again please. So just hold the blowtorch onto the exhaust stud until it literally is glowing red.
Walk away and go and have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and leave it. All of the aluminium around that stud will then soak up that heat and it will all expand.
So if I use a 2-nut method, put them on before I heat it, yeah, direct the flame away from the aluminium, superb. All right, I'll give one a go and see how I get on. I'm already 2 hours into trying to rebuild this bike and I've made 0 progress. Oh my gosh. It's working. It's like magic. Right, so it's going so well up until this one. That one's split, and this one used the mole grips, and you can see that hasn't worked too well either. So we're back out with the power drill, which does work, but works ever so slowly. Right, this is turning into a nightmare because the hole I've drilled, or attempted to drill, isn't quite central. So, just kill me. Been at this for about 5 hours, starting to lose my head. If I'm honest, I've been and got myself, been out again, second time today. I've been and got myself a tap and die set. I'm losing hope. Whole day has gone doing this, and all I've got is an engine on a bench. It's getting late, very late. All day I've been at this. We're almost there with one of the 2 threads I need to repair. Gonna come back to it tomorrow. Right, so it's the following morning and we don't hesitate to get stuck right back into it. Check out that clean thread which the exhaust stud screws into, no bother. Which you'd think I could simply repeat the same process for the last remaining exhaust stud, right? Honestly, this has turned into quite the disaster. I've spent 2 days trying to extract these exhaust studs, but the problem is the second one, a drill bit snapped off inside the stud. I've even been and got myself hardened drill bits. 2 days and it's starting to rain. So at this point I felt it was just best I come away from it to come back another day. Alright, so it's a new day and we're going to come back to this absolute nightmare of a job. So I've done some research and I've armed myself with enough knowledge to realise that there is no chance of me extracting that exhaust stud when there is a drill bit snapped off inside. So I've come to the conclusion I'm going to have to remove the top end, something that I just didn't envision myself doing with this Thunderace rebuild, but it's going to make for some exciting content, and ultimately I want to learn. So the only way for me to learn is to get stuck in and throw myself in the deep end. So without further ado, let's crack on. Now you might be asking, why would I go to the extreme of removing the top end? Well, I considered that the cylinder head would likely need to fit into a workshop machine or just be less cumbersome overall if we were going to get any help with removing that exhaust stud. Plus, this engine has never had a valve check, and so I reckon I can do that too. Okay, so I removed that cap, and in there, I'm not sure if you'll be able to spot it, but there are some markings which I need to ensure that I align to put the engine at top dead centre, which means I need to rotate the crank. Now, to rotate the crank, the workshop manual suggests that you remove this cap here, this cover, and you can use a special bolt to rotate the crank, but we don't have that. However, I did think to myself, maybe if I put the engine in gear and turn this sprocket, I can turn the crank that way. Plus, I have attempted to undo these crosshead screws, but they are so stiff and I'll end up just probably chewing them to bits. To move the crank with the least resistance, I shifted the gearbox into 5th gear, and this allowed me to align the markings for top dead centre perfectly. So I started removing the spark plugs, using the spark plug socket that you find in the bike's under-seat tool bag. And look at the condition of the first plug I remove, as well as this build-up of crust. Nice. we remove this timing chain guard, then the timing chain tensioner, These markings here are how you ensure the bike is in time when at top dead centre. And there are markings to indicate your inlet with relevant cylinder number, as well as exhaust and cylinder number to help when it comes to reassembly. Off with the timing chain and we remove the camshafts. Alright, so I'm going to have to come back to this because I need to order some specialised tools, because basically there is head bolts down there which I can get access to using this hex key. However, I need an extra long hex impact drive. And just like magic, we have a 6mm extra long hex socket that fits perfectly. So we proceed to just take the slack off the very tight head bolts. I worked in a crisscross pattern and approached this task with patience, as I didn't want to snap a bolt or potentially damage the head. Then once loose enough, I remove a few more ancillary parts. And finally, some taps with a mallet to break the head loose. Now we could see the pistons and all this crust. This could easily have happened if we simply just replaced the spark plugs. Can you imagine the damage this would cause? Okay, so I've come upstairs and I'm in my spare room, and I think if I continue to strip this head to pieces, I think it's going to be a lot safer to do so here. So the idea going forward is I've got this old shoebox, and these buckets, I think they're called, I'm going to remove them and I'm going to just stack them in order there, and then underneath there are shims as well, so I plan on just marking on a piece of paper the numbers written on each and every one of those shims and try and keep it in order. And also the valves that I remove, I plan on just putting them through the box, basically punch a hole through, and then just, as I say, keep everything in order as it comes apart. So, as I said, I felt working from my spare room would be far safer and certainly a lot more comfortable. So we gently remove the first bucket, being careful to handle the shim so as to not lose it. And we check the number, then write it down. And we repeat this process for the remaining 19. Okay, for the next stage, I need a spring compressor tool if I want to remove the valves. We've got the kit here, first time using it, see how we get on. Now the way this valve spring compressor works is by essentially fixing the valve in place, one end, while the other end compresses the spring. Once compressed, you gain access to these tiny little collets, which you remove using a magnet. This allows you to then remove the valve spring, to then gently remove the valve. Alright, so we have finally removed all of the valves. They are, as I said, we're going to do all in order, punch through this shoebox, and it's all nicely organised. So, crazy how far we've come, all because of this annoying exhaust stud that refused to remove. But now I've come this far, and looking at the condition of this head, I'm keen to get this all properly cleaned up. So I won't do that in this upload, I'll leave that for another one, but I think for now, this has dragged on far too long, and let's look forward to the next instalment of the Thunderace rebuild. So if you enjoyed this one, let me know. Of course, all your comments and opinions, always greatly appreciated. Very late now, I'm going to go to bed. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on another one very soon. See you later.